Okay, I said I was going to paint this guy here, but sadly enough, I ran out of primer today. So you can tell by the spottedness and everything that, well, I ran out of primer, and I'll probably have to take a trip to the store tomorrow. So the guy who looks fairly similar, let's go with simple enough, just a simple knife Groot, no extra pieces. Anyway, um, basically teach you guys how to paint a crew carnivore really quick, make him look really good. So, turn out something like this. Maybe if you don't take as much time as I do, it'll probably get done. Maybe 30 minutes per model. It all depends on how fast of a painter you are. Anyway, so to get started, start with a nice foundation paint, Gretchen green. Tank brushes work the best. I don't have my tank brush with me, so don't. So if you have a tank brush, you can pretty much do a really quick brush on him. So this is how you paint. Really quick foundation. You paint it. You just slather it on. Don't even care where it goes. As long as it's getting on the model, try not to overdo it so you don't hide all the details, but the whole point of it is you just want to get the paint on. Now, you should probably use a palette, and then that way your paint won't dry while you paint. It makes the paint last longer. On the other hand, you also have to be careful maintain. Well, if you are planning not to do a lot of painting, like I'm going to only be painting this one model today, then it's probably best just to go out of your actual paint jar. So, like I said, just put it on. You just want the important parts covered, mainly his body. Now, in my other videos I was talking about stripping models, and I found out that simple green works really well on plastic. I was definitely surprised. I thought, maybe the plastic might melt, or, some of the detail would fade, but definitely didn't happen at all. So I was quite happy with it. I don't know. I put up the video because I had these models that I painted, about 5 years ago when I started collecting Groot started collecting Tau, and well, I didn't know how to paint at all. I was, in high school, wasn't really into the hobby too much, didn't research at all, and pretty much just kind of blinded it painting my first couple models. I thought it was cool enough, and then, once you discover techniques like maybe a bit of highlighting, or what I'm going to be using is ink washes, which is just a really cheap method of pretty much cheating highlights. So you don't have to highlight each individual model, but you still get a pretty decent look. Anyway, as I'm saying, if I had a tank brush, like I said, you'd probably be done this step. It takes about 10 seconds with a tank brush, because you just get the entire model covered. So anyway, in there, you don't really need to do the gun, because the gun is not going to be green. Here, I'm going to use my Vermin Brown, which is actually really old. It's actually an old twist cap. I was kind of able to maintain it. It's probably, like I said, I think 3 years old, and just making sure that there's water in it. It's kind of at its life's end, but, still usable. Now, I'm just going to paint the gun real quick with Vermin Brown. As you can see, it's kind of a watery paint, so I'm going to see if I can try and get more solid paint here. Now, once again, if you have a palette, it's easier to play around with, because then, you can add as much water if it's not watery enough, or if it's too watery, you can just add a bit more paint. And that is the big advantage of a palette. Now, you're going to notice that as I'm painting this model, it's not going to look special at all. It's just going to look like a run-of-the-mill model. Once again, it's not until you get to the actual inking that everything you've done looks a million times better. When I was first taught this technique, I was really surprised that, you know, something that I painted that just looked normal turned out the way it did. I'll probably touch it up in case, you know, if I hit some brown here. In between his fingers there is going to be, if I had bold gunmetal, it would be bold gunmetal, but right now I don't, so I'm going to be probably doing it mithril silver. I'm taking actually a lot of time right here just to actually not, I don't have to be, because you know what, the other two places beside it are just going to be painted over top, so at this point I'm taking a lot more time than I should be. I was talking about stripping earlier. Pewter models, definitely you want to use an organic solvent called acetone. Pretty much it's what I use in the chem labs in order to you know, wash excess chemicals away, and it definitely works on paint as well. It'll bond, like, I don't want to get into the chemistry lesson, but it'll bond with the paint and pull it off of the model, and it works like a charm. Make sure you take the base off the model first. Anyway, so make sure also when you're buying it from the hardware store that you aren't buying 5 bottles of it, because it's also used in drug production. I'm not saying go out and make drugs with it. That would be, I guess, bad. So yeah, it's the saying, don't buy acetone in large quantities unless if you want to be talked to by the store manager or the salesman, so you could possibly get denied the sale if you don't have a legitimate reason. Obviously, if you're just, you know, saying, you know, you're removing paint from metal. So that's that. Now I'm gonna get my mithril silver right there. This one's, all my paints are really old paints, but like I said, make sure you always have them watered down if you're not going to be using it in a while. I had a couple drops of water. I went home from school for 4 months, came back, and all my paints were running dry. I added some water, shook it around a bit, and they were working pretty well again. So it's nothing worse than getting ready to paint your models again, especially after a long period where you have to motivate yourself again, and finding out all your paints are dry. Had that happen to me before, and it is not a fun feeling. So yeah, that's done. So probably one of the most detailed parts, the gun stock, is finished, and we'll quickly do his vest. Now, see, now I've actually had some friends who also are into the hobby, showed them how I painted my models, and they said it was the most incredibly cheap thing they've ever seen. And some of them even refused to do it because, you know, part of the hobby is, you know, collecting, painting, and, you know, spending time, you know, creating your models. And I mean, as much as I enjoy the hobby itself, when you're painting, you know, a 7-point cost unit, and you're gonna have, say, 13 of them, and I just want my unit to look good on the table, and, you know, even if you pick them up, hopefully, you know, there'll be some detail there. There's his vest, quick snake like leather, you know, nothing amazing right now. The one thing you probably want to do is, instead of what I'm doing is, you know, moving from left to right of the model, paint all the parts that are, you know, that you want all the same color. So like when I was doing the mithril silver on the gun, I should have probably done this knife right here as well.